The champagne bubbles rose in my glass like tiny translucent spheres of hope, each one a perfect miniature world catching the soft amber light of the reception hall. I watched them surface and pop, one after another, wondering if my own life felt just as fragile beautiful for a moment before dissolving into nothing. "Congratulations," I said automatically, hugging yet another distant cousin whose name I'd forgotten the moment we were introduced at the ceremony. My cheeks ached from smiling. My feet screamed inside the ivory pumps I bought specifically for this wedding. My heart felt like a stone in my chest. I was 28 years old, watching my younger sister marry the love of her life, and I never felt more alone. Emma looked radiant in her flowing gown, her face luminous with a joy so genuine it hurt to witness. She and David had that effortless connection you see in movies, but rarely in real life, the kind where they finished each other's sentences, where a single glance across a crowded room conveyed entire conversations. They had found their person. I'd found nothing but a string of failed relationships with men who were perfectly nice but somehow always wrong. There was Marcus, the accountant who loved me but bored me to tears. There was James, the passionate artist who cheated within 6 months. There was David, ironically named, who proposed after a year. And I said yes because everyone expected it, only to break his heart 3 months later when I finally admitted I couldn't marry him. I couldn't explain why. I just knew something fundamental was missing, like trying to force a puzzle piece into the wrong space. It almost fit, but not quite. Never quite. "You okay, Sam?" I turned to find my best friend Rachel beside me, her dark eyes concerned. She knew me too well. "Just thinking about how I'll probably end up a cat lady," I joked, but my voice cracked slightly. Rachel squeezed my hand. "You haven't met the right person yet. That's all." The right person. How many times had I heard that phrase? How many times had I repeated it to myself like a mantra? I was beginning to suspect the right person didn't exist, or worse, that I was somehow fundamentally unable to feel what other people felt. "I'm going to get some air," I said, setting down my champagne and weaving through the crowd of celebrating guests. The venue was a restored barn on the outskirts of Portland. All exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of rustic chic aesthetic that showed up on every wedding Pinterest board. I pushed through the side door into the cool October evening, breathing in the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke. The stars were just beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering slightly at my sleeveless bridesmaid dress, a deep burgundy that Emma had chosen because it brought out the warmth in my complexion. I felt anything but warm, escaping too. The voice startled me. I turned to find a woman leaning against the barn wall about 10 feet away, a cigarette between her fingers. She was tall and lean, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that somehow managed to look both elegant and slightly rebellious. Her dark hair was cut short in a style that framed sharp cheekbones and striking green eyes. I noticed her during the ceremony, sitting on the groom's side. She'd been impossible not to notice. "I don't smoke," I said automatically, then felt foolish. She hadn't offered me one. "Neither do I, usually," she said, taking a drag and exhaling slowly. "But weddings make me do strange things." Her voice had a slight rasp to it, like whiskey and velvet. "Bad memories?" I asked. "Something like that." She studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You're the bride's sister. Samantha, right? Emma talks about you." "You know Emma?" "I work with David. We're both architects at Morrison and Hayes." She stubbled out the cigarette against the brick wall. "I'm Alex." She extended her hand, and when I took it, something electric passed between us. Her grip was firm, warm, confident. I held on a moment too long before pulling away. "The mysterious coworker," I said, remembering vaguely that Emma had mentioned someone named Alex who was incredibly talented but notoriously private. For some reason, I pictured a balding middle-aged man, not this striking woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Mysterious? Alex's lips curved into a half-smile. "That's one word for it. What word would you use?" "Selective." She tilted her head, studying me with those penetrating green eyes. "I don't waste time on things that don't matter. Or people who don't matter." There was something challenging in her tone, something that made my pulse quicken. I felt suddenly acutely aware of my own body, the way the evening breeze raised goosebumps on my bare arms. The way my dress clung to my curves, the way Alex's gaze seemed to see right through me. And do I matter? The question slipped out before I could stop it, surprising us both. Alex stepped closer. I could smell her cologne, something woody and sophisticated with a hint of citrus. I think you might, she said quietly. The door behind us burst open, and a group of laughing groomsmen tumbled out, breaking the spell. Alex stepped back smoothly, her expression shifting to polite neutrality so quickly I wondered if I'd imagined the intensity of the previous moment. We should get back, she said. I think they're about to cut the cake. I nodded mutely and followed her inside, my mind spinning. What had just happened? Why did my heart feel like it was trying to escape my chest? Why did I keep stealing glances at the way Alex moved through the crowd with such easy confidence? I didn't expect to see Alex again after the wedding. Portland was a big enough city that you could easily avoid someone if you wanted to. But fate or coincidence or whatever force governs these things had other plans. 2 weeks later, I was working on my laptop in my favorite coffee shop, a tiny place called Crema that made the best cortados in the city, when someone slid into the chair across from me. We have to stop meeting like this, Alex said with that half smile I'd been trying unsuccessfully to forget. I looked up from my screen, my heart doing an uncomfortable little flip. She was wearing jeans and a black Henley today, more casual than the wedding, but no less striking. Her hair was slightly damp, like she'd just showered. We're not meeting, I pointed out. You sat down at my table uninvited. True, I could leave. But she made no move to go, instead signaling the barista for a coffee. What are you working on? I glanced at my laptop, where I'd been half-heartedly editing marketing copy for a boutique hotel client. I was a freelance copywriter, which sounded more glamorous than it was. Mostly I spent my days finding creative ways to describe thread counts and breakfast buffets, trying to make a hotel in Bend sound like a life-changing experience. I said, is it? The hotel? Probably not. But I'm very convincing. Alex laughed, a genuine sound that lit up her whole face. I bet you are. The barista brought over a black coffee, which Alex accepted with a nod of thanks. She took a sip, studying me over the rim of her cup in that unnervingly direct way she had. Can I ask you something? She said finally. You're going to anyway. Fair point. She set down her cup. At the wedding, you looked like someone at a funeral, not a celebration. Why? The question was so direct, so unexpected, that I almost answered honestly. Instead, I deflected. Maybe I just don't like weddings. No, it was something else. She leaned back in her chair, still watching me. You looked lost. Something about the way she said it, without judgment, without pity, just stating a fact, made my defenses crumble. Maybe it was because she was essentially a stranger. Maybe it was because those green eyes seemed to see through all my carefully constructed walls anyway. I am lost, I admitted quietly. I'm 28 years old and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I write mediocre copy for mediocre clients. I live in a mediocre apartment. I date mediocre men who I can't seem to fall in love with no matter how hard I try. I laughed bitterly. Mediocre seems to be my specialty. Fuck mediocre, Alex said simply. I blinked at her. Excuse me? You heard me? Fuck mediocre. Fuck settling. Fuck doing what you think you're supposed to do. She leaned forward, intense. Life's too short to waste on things that don't set your soul on fire. Easy to say. Harder to do when you don't know what you actually want. I think you know. You're just afraid to admit it. Her words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication I wasn't ready to examine. I looked away, out the window where rain had started to fall, turning the street into a blur of gray and gold. What do you want, Alex? I asked, changing the subject. She was quiet for a long moment. I want to design buildings that make people feel something, she said finally. I want to wake up excited about my day. I want to be with someone who actually sees me, not just the version of me they think I should be. She paused. And I want to stop hiding. Hiding what? Who I am. She met my eyes directly. I'm gay, Samantha. I'm a lesbian. And I spent the first 25 years of my life pretending I wasn't because I thought it would make things easier. It didn't. It just made me miserable. My breath caught. The word hung between us, lesbian, and I felt something shift inside me. Like a door I hadn't known existed suddenly swinging open to reveal a room I'd never explored. Why are you telling me this? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Because I think you need to hear it. Alex's expression was gentle now, understanding. Because I recognized that lost look at the wedding. I wore it for years. Because sometimes we need someone to give us permission to be honest with ourselves. My hands were shaking. I wrapped them around my coffee cup, seeking warmth. Seeking something solid to hold on to as my entire world seemed to tilt on its axis. I'm not. I started. But the words died in my throat. I'm not gay. That's what I meant to say. That's what I should say. But the words wouldn't come because somewhere deep inside, in a place I'd locked away and refused to acknowledge, a small voice whispered, "But what if you are?" All those failed relationships suddenly took on a different shape. All those men I couldn't quite love. All those times I felt like I was performing rather than feeling. All those moments I caught myself staring too long at a woman's smile, her hands, the curve of her neck, and told myself it was just aesthetic appreciation. I have to go, I said abruptly. Shoving my laptop into my bag with shaking hands, Alex didn't try to stop me. "Samantha," she called as I reached the door. I turned back. "Take your time figuring things out. But be honest with yourself. You deserve that much." I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every interaction I'd ever had with women, seeing them all through this new, terrifying lens. There was Claire in high school, my best friend, who I thought about constantly, who made my heart race when she hugged me, who I cried over for weeks when she got a boyfriend. I told myself I was just jealous of losing my friend's attention. There was Professor Martinez in college, whose lectures I attended religiously even though I'd already fulfilled my literature requirements. I memorized the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking, the way her eyes lit up when discussing Virginia Woolf. I told myself I just admired her intellectually. There was Sophie, my coworker at my first marketing job, who I volunteered to stay late with on projects we could have finished separately, who I thought about when I should have been thinking about my boyfriend, who I missed with a physical ache when she moved to New York. I told myself we were just really good friends. How many times had I lied to myself? How many times had I felt the pull toward a woman and reinterpreted it as friendship, admiration, anything but what it actually was? And Alex, God, Alex, the way my body had responded to her at the wedding, the electricity of her handshake, the way I couldn't stop thinking about her afterward, the way my heart had nearly stopped when she said the word lesbian. As if she was naming something in me I'd refused to name myself. I picked up my phone a dozen times to call Rachel, to tell someone, anyone, what I was going through. But shame kept me silent. What would I even say? Hey, so I think I've been lying to myself and everyone else my entire life. Instead, I did what any millennial in crisis does. I went down an internet rabbit hole. I read coming out stories until my eyes burned. I watched YouTube videos of women describing their experiences. I took online quizzes with ridiculous names like, "Am I gay?" Quiz for women, and stared at the results that all pointed to the same answer I was too terrified to accept. But the thing that finally broke me was an essay I found on a blog somewhere in the depths of my 3 a.m. searching. It was written by a woman who didn't realize she was gay until she was 32, married with a child. She described a phenomena called compulsory heterosexuality, the way society conditions women to believe they must be attracted to men, to the point where we can convince ourselves we feel things we don't actually feel. She described going through the motions in relationships with men, thinking something was wrong with her because she couldn't make it work. She described choosing boyfriends like checking boxes on a form. He's nice, he's smart, he treats me well, I should love him. She described feeling like she was acting a part in a play she never auditioned for. I was crying before I finished reading, because it was my story. Every word of it was my story. A week after the coffee shop encounter, I texted Alex, "Can we talk?" She responded immediately, "My place or neutral territory?" Neutral. "I'm not ready for your place. The Overlook, 7 p.m.? The Overlook was a viewpoint in Washington Park with a stunning panorama of the city. It felt appropriate, somehow meeting at a place where you could see for miles, where the world opened up before you. I got there early and paced the parking lot until I saw Alex's car pull in. She emerged wearing a worn leather jacket and jeans, looking infuriatingly beautiful in the fading light. "Hi," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "Hi," she stayed by her car, giving me space. "You okay?" "No, yes, I don't know." I wrapped my arms around myself. "I haven't been okay since that coffee shop. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize." I finally met her eyes. "You were right. About all of it. I do know what I want. I've known for a long time. I just couldn't." I took a shaky breath. I couldn't say it out loud. "You don't have to say anything you're not ready for." "But I want to. I need to." The words were building in my chest, desperate to escape. "I think I'm gay. I'm a lesbian. I've been attracted to women my whole life, and I couldn't let myself see it. I couldn't let myself be it." Saying the words out loud felt like jumping off a cliff, terrifying and exhilarating and irreversible. I started crying, and suddenly Alex was there, her arms around me, holding me while I shook. "I know," she murmured into my hair. "I know, it's scary as hell. But you're going to be okay. I promise you're going to be okay." We stood like that for a long time, her holding me while the sun set over Portland, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. When I finally pulled back, Alex's eyes were bright with unshed tears too. "What do I do now?" I asked. "Whatever you want. There's no script for this. Some people come out to everyone immediately. Some people take years. Some people never make a big announcement at all, they just start living authentically." She brushed a strand of hair from my face, and the gentleness of the gesture made my heart ache. "You get to decide what this looks like for you." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "I know. But you're also brave. It takes courage to face the truth about yourself." "I don't feel brave. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the thing that scares you anyway." She smiled softly. "Trust me, I know from experience." We walked to the viewpoint and sat on a bench overlooking the city. The lights were beginning to twinkle on in the gathering dusk, thousands of windows illuminated against the darkness. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Always. When did you know?" "About yourself?" Alex was quiet for a moment, considering. "I think part of me always knew, but I didn't have the language for it when I was young. I grew up in a small town in Idaho where being gay was not an option. At least that's what I thought." She leaned back, gazing at the city. "I had my first crush on a girl when I was 12. Her name was Hannah. She had freckles and played soccer, and I thought she hung the moon. I told myself I just wanted to be her friend." I smiled despite myself. "Sounds familiar." "It gets worse. I dated boys all through high school because that's what you did. I even convinced myself I was in love with a guy named Brett senior year. We lost our virginity to each other on prom night in the back of his truck. How was it?" "Deeply underwhelming." She laughed. I remember lying there afterward thinking, this is what everyone makes such a big deal about? It wasn't until college that I finally let myself acknowledge the truth. I met a woman named Melissa in my architecture program. She was out and proud and so fucking confident. And I wanted her so badly it hurt. What happened? I kissed her at a party. And it was. Alex turned to look at me, her eyes intense. It was like coming home. Like every kiss before that had been in black and white, and suddenly the whole world was in color. I knew I could never go back. My pulse was racing. The way she described it, the coming home, the color resonated so deeply it almost hurt. Were you ever with her? Melissa? For about 6 months. She was my first everything that actually mattered. First woman I kissed, first woman I slept with, first person I ever fell in love with. What happened? She graduated and moved to Boston for grad school. We tried long distance for a while, but Alex shrugged. It wasn't meant to last forever. But I'm grateful for her. She helped me become myself. We sat in companionable silence, watching the city lights multiply. Finally, I worked up the courage to ask the question that had been burning in my mind. Alex, why did you approach me? At the wedding and then at the coffee shop? Did you just want to help me figure things out, or? I trailed off, unable to finish the question. She turned to face me fully. I'm attracted to you, Samantha. I've been since I first saw you at the wedding, looking so beautiful and so lost. But I also recognized something of myself in you, and I thought maybe I could help. Both things can be true. My breath caught. Oh, but I'm not going to pursue anything with you right now. You need time and space to figure out who you are without that pressure. When if you decide you want to explore something with someone, it should be because you're ready, not because I'm here making puppy eyes at you. Are you making puppy eyes at me? Absolutely not. I'm far too cool for puppy eyes. But she was smiling and I was smiling and something warm unfurled in my chest. I told Rachel first, on a rainy Thursday afternoon in her apartment. We were supposed to be watching a movie, but I couldn't focus. Finally, I just blurted it out. I'm gay. Rachel hit pause on the remote and turned to me slowly. For a terrible moment, I thought I'd made a mistake. Then her face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Oh, thank God, she said. I blinked. What? Sam, honey, I've been wondering for years. I didn't want to say anything because it wasn't my place, but honestly, I'm just relieved you finally figured it out. You knew? How did you know when I didn't know? The way you talked about women versus men. The way you lit up around certain women. The way you seemed to be forcing yourself through every relationship with every guy. She grabbed my hand. I love you, and I'm so proud of you for being honest with yourself. I started crying for what felt like the 100th time that month. Rachel pulled me into a hug, and I felt a weight I hadn't known I was carrying begin to lift. There's something else, I said when I could speak again. Oh. There's a woman, Alex. She's the one who helped me figure all this out. Rachel's eyes widened. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the wedding, the coffee shop, the conversation at the Overlook. I told her about the electricity I felt whenever Alex was near, the way my heart raced, the way I couldn't stop thinking about her. Do you have feelings for her? Rachel asked. I think so. But I don't know if they're real or if she's just the first woman I've allowed myself to see that way. What if I'm just projecting? What if, Sam, stop overthinking? What do you feel when you think about her? I closed my eyes. Like I'm falling. Like I want to know everything about her. Like when she smiles at me, nothing else matters. I opened my eyes. Is that what it's supposed to feel like? I think, Rachel said gently, that's what falling in love feels like. The words hit me like a physical blow. Falling in love. Was that what this was? This feeling that had been building since the wedding, growing stronger every time I saw Alex, every time I thought about her? But she said she won't pursue anything with me right now. She wants me to figure myself out first. Smart woman. She's giving you the space you need. Rachel squeezed my hand. But that doesn't mean you can't spend time together. You can date yourself, figure out who you are, and let whatever happens with Alex happen naturally. Over the next few weeks, I slowly came out to more people. My parents were confused, but ultimately supportive. My dad made an awkward joke about still having to screen my dates. My mom cried and told me she just wanted me to be happy, then spent the next hour asking if this was because of something she did wrong in raising me. Mom, no. This is just who I am. Who I've always been. Emma was thrilled. I knew it. She crowed when I told her over lunch. I told David after the wedding that you and Alex had crazy chemistry. She mentioned me to you? She asked about you. A lot. Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone, what your deal was. Emma grinned. I may have told her you were single and figuring some things out. What? I'm an excellent wingwoman. Not everyone reacted well. I lost a few friends who suddenly became uncomfortable around me. Some family members stopped inviting me to things. A cousin told me I was going to hell. Each rejection stung, but they also felt like relief, like shedding a too tight skin to reveal something truer underneath. And through it all, Alex was there. Not as a romantic interest, we'd agreed to keep things platonic while I figured myself out, but as a friend. We texted daily. We met for coffee, for walks in the park, for late-night conversations about architecture and writing and life. She introduced me to her circle of queer friends. And suddenly I was part of a community I'd never known existed. We went to lesbian bars where I felt simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. We attended a pride planning meeting where I volunteered to help with social media. We went to a poetry slam where a woman read a piece about coming out that made me cry, I was building a new life, a true life. And Alex was the thread running through all of it, but we didn't cross any lines. We didn't kiss. We barely even touched beyond friendly hugs. And it was driving me slowly insane. 3 months after my coffee shop revelation, Alex invited me to an art gallery opening. One of her friends was exhibiting photographs exploring queer identity, and Alex had promised to attend. "You don't have to come," she said. "I know you're still figuring things out and it might be a lot." "I want to," I insisted. "I want to be there with you." The gallery was in the Pearl District, a converted warehouse space with exposed beams and concrete floors. The photographs were stunning intimate portraits of queer people in everyday moments. A woman kissing her wife while doing dishes. 2 men holding hands in a hardware store. A non-binary person getting dressed for work. The ordinariness of the moments made them profound. These weren't dramatic coming-out stories or political statements. They were just lives. People loving and living authentically. I was studying a photograph of 2 women dancing in a kitchen when I felt Alex come up beside me. "Beautiful, isn't it?" She said, "Yeah." I turned to her. "Is this what you want? Just normalcy? Dishes and dancing in ordinary life? With the right person?" Alex's eyes were soft. "That's everything." The crowd pressed around us, forcing us closer together. I could smell her cologne, feel the warmth radiating from her body. We'd been so careful these past months, maintaining a respectful distance. But in that moment, with wine coursing through my veins and 3 months of suppressed desire suddenly demanding to be acknowledged, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Alex," I whispered, "I want to kiss you." Her eyes widened slightly. "Sam, I know what you said about giving me space and time, and I'm grateful for that. But I've had time. I figured things out. And what I figured out is that I'm crazy about you and I can't keep pretending I'm not. You're sure? Because once we cross this line, I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything." Alex glanced around the crowded gallery, then grabbed my hand. "Come with me." She led me through the crowd, past the photographs and the wine-drinking art enthusiasts, out a side door into an alley. The night air was cool against my flushed skin. "I need to know you mean this," Alex said, still holding my hand. "I need to know this isn't just excitement or rebellion," or I kissed her. I rose up on my toes and pressed my lips to hers, cutting off her words. For a moment, she froze. Then she was kissing me back, one hand cupping my face, the other sliding around my waist to pull me closer, and Alex had been right about everything being in color. Every kiss I'd ever had before this moment was a pale imitation. This was real. This was right. This was like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. We kissed until we were both breathless, until my lips were swollen and my heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst from my chest. When we finally broke apart, Alex pressed her forehead to mine. "Wow," she breathed. "Yeah," I agreed, laughing shakily. "Wow, so I should probably take you to dinner or something." "Do this properly. You probably should. Tomorrow night?" "Tomorrow night." She kissed me again, softer this time, sweet and tender. "For the record, I'm crazy about you too. Have been since that wedding." "Good," I said. "Because I plan on kissing you a lot more." Our first official date was at a small Italian restaurant in Northwest Portland. I changed outfits 7 times before settling on a black dress that made me feel confident and beautiful. When Alex picked me up, the look in her eyes told me I'd chosen right. "You're stunning," she said, kissing my cheek. "So are you." And she was in tailored slacks and a crisp white button-down that made her look both sophisticated and slightly dangerous. Dinner was easy in the way things are when you've already spent months getting to know someone. We talked about everything and nothing, her latest architectural project, my new client who wanted me to make their pet hotel sound like a luxury resort, the book she was reading, the article I'd just published, but underneath the easy conversation was an electric current of awareness. Every time her hand brushed mine, I felt it like a shock. Every time she smiled, I wanted to kiss her. Every time she looked at me with those intense green eyes, I felt myself falling deeper after dinner. We walked through the Pearl, not ready for the night to end. Alex took my hand, and the simple gesture felt revolutionary. We were 2 women holding hands in public, and I waited for the shame or fear to kick in. Instead, I just felt happy. "Can I ask you something?" I said as we walked. Double quotes always. What was your first time like? With a woman, I mean. Alex smiled. Nervous, exciting, a little awkward. Melissa and I fumbled around a lot, trying to figure out what we were doing. But it was also incredible because it finally felt right, you know? Like, this is what my body had been waiting for. My pulse quickened. I want that. With you, Alex stopped walking and turned to face me. Are you sure? We don't have to rush anything. I'm not rushing. I'm choosing. I met her eyes directly. I choose you? We went back to her apartment, a loft in the Lloyd district with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was quintessentially Alex's minimalist furniture, clean lines, stunning architecture books scattered everywhere. Wine? She offered, suddenly seeming as nervous as I felt. Maybe just water. Water's good. I have water. I laughed at her adorable awkwardness. This incredibly confident woman was nervous about being with me. Somehow that made me feel better about my own nerves. She brought us both water and we sat on her couch, not quite touching. The city lights twinkled below us. We can just talk, Alex said softly. Or watch a movie. Or I can take you home. Whatever you're comfortable with. In answer, I leaned over and kissed her. She made a small sound of surprise before kissing me back, her hands coming up to frame my face. We kissed on the couch for what felt like hours, exploring each other slowly, learning what made the other gasp or sigh. When Alex's hand slid under the hem of my dress, resting on my thigh, I shivered. Okay? She murmured against my lips, more than okay. She kissed me deeper, her hand moving higher, and I felt desire pooling in my belly like liquid heat. I never wanted anyone the way I wanted her in that moment. Bedroom? I whispered. Alex stood and extended her hand. I took it and let her lead me to her bedroom, a simple space dominated by a large bed with crisp white sheets. She turned to face me, her eyes searching mine. Last chance to change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. I reached up and started unbuttoning her shirt, my fingers trembling slightly. I want this. I want you. She helped me with the buttons, shrugging out of the shirt to reveal a black sports bra underneath. Then her hands were on the zipper of my dress, slowly pulling it down. Turn around, she said softly. I turned and I felt her fingertips trailing down my spine as she lowered the zipper. The dress fell away, pulling at my feet. I stood before her in just my underwear, vulnerable and exposed. Alex's hands rested on my shoulders. Then she leaned in and kissed my neck, her lips warm against my skin. You're beautiful, she murmured. I turned in her arms and kissed her, deep and hungry. We moved to the bed together, a tangle of limbs and wanting. And when Alex finally touched me, really touched me, I understood what she'd meant about color. This was what I'd been missing all those years. This connection, this rightness, this feeling of being truly seen and wanted and loved. We made love slowly, carefully, Alex murmuring instructions and asking what I liked, showing me what she liked. There was fumbling and laughter when we bumped noses or when my elbow ended up in an awkward position. But there was also such sweetness, such tenderness, such overwhelming rightness that I found myself crying. Are you okay? Alex asked, concerned, pulling back slightly. I'm perfect, I said, pulling her back down for a kiss. I've just never felt like this before. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. You are, she whispered. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Later, we lay tangled together, my head on her chest, listening to her heartbeat slowly return to normal. Can I tell you something? I said into the darkness. Anything. I think I'm falling in love with you. Alex's arms tightened around me. I think I'm already there. I think I've been there since that night at the wedding when you looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I was. Terrified. So was I terrified. And hopeful and not at all ready for the way you would change my life. I propped myself up on an elbow to look at her. How have I changed your life? You reminded me what it feels like to really want something. To care about someone beyond surface level. I'd gotten so used to keeping people at a distance. She touched my face gently. You made me want to let someone in again. I kissed her softly. Good, because I plan on staying in for a very long time. Good, she echoed, pulling me back down against her chest. Because I don't plan on letting you go. The first year with Alex was a revelation. Not because it was perfect, it wasn't. We had fights about stupid things like who forgot to buy milk or whose turn it was to do dishes. We had serious conversations about what we wanted from life, from each other, from our futures, but it was real in a way nothing had ever been before. When Alex looked at me, she saw me not the version I thought I should be, but the actual person I was. And I saw her with the same clarity. I moved into her loft 6 months after our first date. My parents were concerned about the speed, but Rachel just laughed. "You've been waiting your whole life to feel this way," she said, helping me pack boxes. "Why would you waste another minute?" Living with Alex meant waking up to her face every morning. It meant lazy Sunday breakfasts and midnight conversations and learning to navigate shared space with another person. It meant dealing with her habit of leaving coffee cups everywhere and her inability to put her dirty clothes in the actual hamper instead of next to it. It also meant incredible sex. Deep conversations at 2 a.m., surprise flowers just because. And someone to hold me when work was stressful or family was difficult. We went to Pride together that June. And I cried when I saw the rainbow flags lining the parade route. Alex held my hand as we marched with thousands of other queer people. And I felt a sense of belonging I'd never experienced before. "I wish I could go back and tell teenage me about this moment," I said. Watching a group of young queer kids dancing to the music blaring from a float, what would you tell her? That it gets better. That there's a whole community waiting for her. That one day she meets someone who makes everything make sense. Alex kissed my temple. "She'd be proud of who you became." My career shifted too. I started focusing on clients I actually cared about, queer-owned businesses, nonprofits, organizations doing meaningful work. The money was sometimes less, but the fulfillment was exponentially more. Alex got promoted to senior architect at her firm and started work on a community center that would serve LGBTQ+ youth. She poured her heart into the project, designing spaces that felt safe and welcoming, adding small touches that only queer kids would notice and appreciate. "I wish this had existed when I was a teenager in Idaho," she said one night, showing me the renderings. "Maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone. You're making sure the next generation doesn't feel that way." That's incredible. We built a life together, not perfect, but ours. We hosted dinner parties with our friends. We traveled to San Francisco and saw the Castro. We adopted a cat named Harvey Milk who sat on Alex's laptop whenever she was trying to work. And I fell more in love with her every single day. 2 years after that first kiss in the alley behind the art gallery, Alex planned a special evening. She wouldn't tell me what it was, just instructed me to wear something nice and be ready by 7. I chose a deep emerald dress that hugged my curves and made my eyes look more green than hazel. When Alex saw me, she stopped in her tracks. "Wow," she breathed. "Too much." "No, perfect, you're perfect." She was wearing a tailored navy suit that made her look like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Ready? Where are we going?" "You'll see." She drove us to the Columbia River Gorge, to a spot I'd never been before. We hiked a short trail as the sun began to set, and emerged at a viewpoint overlooking the river. And there, on a blanket spread on the ground, was a picnic dinner complete with candles and champagne. "Alex!" I turned to her, overwhelmed. "Before you say anything," she said, taking my hands, "I need to tell you something." My heart was racing. Was she? 2 years ago, I met a woman who was lost. She was beautiful and sad and sitting at a table in a coffee shop looking like she was drowning. And I knew that she was going to change my life. Tears were already streaming down my face. "You taught me what real love looks like. Not the easy kind that fades when things get hard, but the kind that grows stronger through challenges. The kind that sees someone's messy, complicated truth and says, yes, this. All of it?" She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath caught. "Samantha, you once told me you were falling in love with me. I need you to know that I caught you. I'll always catch you." She opened the box to reveal a simple, stunning ring. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. Yes, 1,000 times yes." She slid the ring onto my finger, and then we were kissing and crying and laughing all at once. When we finally broke apart, I noticed she was crying too. "I love you," I said. "I love you so much it scares me sometimes." "I love you too." And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much. We sat on the blanket and ate the picnic dinner she prepared, all my favorite foods. Down to the ridiculously expensive cheese I pretended not to love but always bought when it was on sale. We drank champagne and watched the stars emerge one by one in the darkening sky. Can I tell you something? I said, leaning back against her chest. Always. When I was at my sister's wedding, watching her marry the love of her life, I was so jealous. Not of Emma specifically, but of that feeling. Of finding your person. I thought I'd never have that. And now? Now I have it. I have you. I turned to kiss her softly. And I get to have that feeling for the rest of my life. We both do, Alex murmured against my lips. We both get exactly what we were searching for. Our wedding was nothing like Emma's traditional affair. We got married at Powell's Books because we're better for a writer and an architect to exchange vows than a place filled with stories and imagination. I wore a simple white dress with a low back. When Alex saw me for the first time, standing in the pearl room surrounded by books, she started crying. You're crying, I teased gently. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, she said. Taking my hands, the ceremony was small, just 50 of our closest friends and family. Emma was my maid of honor, looking beautiful and so proud. Rachel read a poem about love finding you when you stop pretending. Alex's mom, who flew in from Idaho, cried through the whole thing. When it came time for our vows, I spoke from my heart. Alex, you saw me when I couldn't see myself. You gave me the courage to be honest about who I am. You showed me what real love feels like, not the performance I've been giving my whole life, but the messy, beautiful, terrifying reality of it. I promise to always see you just as clearly. To love you not despite your complicated truth, but because of it. To build a life with you that honors who we both are. You were lost, and somehow in helping you find yourself, I found myself too. You reminded me that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the foundation of real connection. I promise to always give you space to grow and change. To celebrate every version of you that emerges. To be your partner in building a life that's authentic and true. When the officiant pronounced us married, we kissed to cheers and applause. And as we walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, I looked at Alex and thought about how far we'd both come. I thought about the girl I'd been terrified and lost, pretending to be someone I wasn't. I thought about all the years I'd wasted trying to force myself into a shape that would never fit. I thought about that moment in the coffee shop when Alex said, I'm gay, and something in me recognized itself at last at the reception held. In an art gallery where we'd had our first kiss, we danced our first dance to a song Alex had chosen. As she held me and we swayed together, I whispered in her ear, thank you. For what? For seeing me. For waiting for me. For loving me. She pulled back to look at me, her eyes bright with tears and joy. Thank you for letting me. Thank you for being brave enough to choose yourself. To choose us. I'll choose you every day, I promised. Every single day for the rest of our lives. Good, she said, spinning me. Because I'm never letting you go. Later, after the cake was cut and the toasts were made and the dancing had worn us out, Alex and I found ourselves alone in a quiet corner. She reached up and touched the zipper at the back of my dress, similar to that first dress she'd unzipped 2 years ago. May I? She asked softly. I smiled, remembering that night, how nervous I'd been, how everything had changed. Always. As she slowly lowered the zipper, I thought about that title I'd given this chapter of my life. She unzipped my dress and I finally understood. Love, because that's exactly what had happened. Alex hadn't just unzipped a dress that first night. She'd helped me unzip all the layers of pretense and fear I'd been wearing my whole life. She'd helped me shed the ill-fitting costume of who I thought I should be to reveal the person I actually was underneath, and in doing so, she'd show me what love really means. Not the fairy tale version where everything is easy and perfect, but the real version, messy and complicated and sometimes scary. The version where you see someone's whole truth and love them anyway. The version where you choose each other every day through the easy moments and the hard ones. The version where a lost woman in a burgundy bridesmaid dress and a mysterious woman in a charcoal suit could find each other at a wedding and build a life together. I love you, I whispered as the dress fell away. I love you too, Alex replied. now and always. And as she kissed me, my wife, my partner, my home, I knew with absolute certainty that I had finally found what I'd been searching for all along. Not just love, but the courage to be myself, and that made all the difference.